Okay, wow, we are live. Listen, family, let me let everybody know we are live. We coming live early today. Early today. Okay, let's get everybody on. Everybody. Okay. Let's get everybody on. All right. Hey, let's get everybody tuned in. We are live. We're early. I'm sitting here with the former Leon County Superintendent Jackie Pons. Let's get everybody tuned in. Let me get everybody tuned in because this show today is going to be life changing. It's going to be life changing. So how you been, man? How's everything been going?
It's great. I'm over in Jefferson County. I've been principal there. It's a great community. I've fallen in love with that community. Our school, if you look at the history of Jefferson, there's been 20 years of DOE being in there and all taking efforts. Recently, we moved our school grade to a grade of C.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna definitely talk about that. Hey, go ahead on the tag and share. I know we came on a little bit early, but I wanted you to go ahead on and get in. Let's get everybody in because I'm sitting here and I'm really feeling overwhelmed with joy to be sitting with an opportunity to talk with the man who has an amazing story, and not only that, but has a love and care for our children, and his heart is in the right place to do what needs to be done. So let's get everybody in. Let's get everybody in. People are getting ready to come in. I guess they probably saying, is this really the Greg James Show? Because we don't start at 2, but we are on a little bit early today. So it's been going well over in Jefferson.
Jefferson County's great. It's a great place to be.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. I'm just trying to get everybody, tuned in. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with me? All right, go ahead on the tag and share. Tag and share. Let me get her to do this right quick. Send. All right, let's get everybody in. Go ahead on and tag, share. Let's get everybody in, God. Let's see who do we have joining us. Hey, go ahead on and tag and share. That's right, tag and share. We are getting ready for the Greg James Community Show, and in the studio with me is candidate for Jefferson County School Superintendent, Mr. Jackie Pons. Let's get everybody on. Let's get everybody on. What's happening? Let's keep going back and forth. Let's get everybody on. Let's get them in. Let's go. We ready. We are. Let me say good afternoon and once again, welcome to, that's right, it's the Greg James Community Show right here on Hallelujah 95.3. Want to say good afternoon to all of those who are tuned in from downtown at the courthouse, Capitol, City Hall, you name it. I know you're tuned in. Driving in your car, you better stop. Don't run the red light because, listen, we're going to speed through some conversation. But guess what? I'm going to have to slow it down because we got some areas that we're going to really talk on. Hey, I want you to go ahead on and tag and share. I want to say good afternoon to all of our social media viewers. Let's go ahead on and tag and share. I know for the doubters that were doubting in person, he is here. So you go ahead on and tag, share. And for the 10,000 of my radio listeners that tuned in, are you excited about this show? Can I get you to give me a big clap right quick? All right. Well, listen, want to say good afternoon to you, Yvonne Stewart. Verna, want to say good afternoon to you. Want to say good afternoon to all of you who joining us. Tasha, Joy Miller. Listen, go ahead on the tag, share. Let's get everybody in because I want to make sure that you understand that when things happen, only God can orchestrate it. Because I know there are many of you who had questions and thoughts and comments and ideas. Want to say good afternoon to Montreal Harris. Go ahead on and tag and share, Montreal. Listen, the show today, you know what the Greg James Show is about. It's about being informative. It's about being inspiring. It's about being able to give your voice a volume. Want to say good afternoon to my co-host, Christy Conscious Chick Henry in Auburn. She's tuned in. Want to say good afternoon to Attorney Mataki Akbar. He's tuned in. Want to say Gerard Willis and Kurt Bender. All of them are part of the Greg James Community Show. Lenora Glover Jones. He's tuned in. Do you remember Glover Jones from FAMU High?
I do remember Glover Jones. He's a good friend of mine.
Well,
great leader in the community too.
But now I know he's that, but do you remember him on the basketball when FAMU would have to play Rickards? I mean, he would hit some amazing three-pointers. That's my guy, Glover Jones. He's tuned in from the city of Monticello. And a great friend of yours.
Great friend of mine. And those Rickards FAMU games were just incredible. I remember all of them with Jim would sell out before the JV game. And, you know, we didn't lose too many games to FAMU.
Okay, wait, stop. I know you were a coach, an athletic director.
You're right.
But listen, Jack and James Bozeman and Glover Jones and Terrence Henson. Oh, my God. I can go on and on. That was the game of the city. FAMU and Rickard.
Avery Curry, Gentry Sparks, Bobby Davis,
all
the great Rickards players that we had won a state championship.
Absolutely.
Right here at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
Packed house, beat Miami High. They were #1 in the nation right here in the Civic Center. So
wow.
Great memories at Rickards. I love Rickards.
Wow. Glover, you see what you started? But listen, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And certainly, listen, I'm excited to have you on and certainly glad that you were able to carve out some time to talk to us today because so much has transpired in your life. And before we get to that, I was thinking one day and I made a post. I said, what if Jackie Pons decided to run for superintendent for Leon County Schools? And people actually thought that you and I had a conversation. And I'm like, no, I haven't talked to him. I'm just sitting here thinking. And you saw the post and the comments, and then I think the Democrat contacted you. And then you reached out to me, Greg James, what are you doing?
You created a lot of phone calls for me that day. But you and I go way back.
We go way back.
We've been friends a long time. And I had great memories here in Leon County. You know, we had a lot of success, went through some tough times, but I can tell you right now that my commitment to Jefferson County, I just have fallen in love with the school system. I mean, it was a tough job, over there. We've turned it into a C school already,
Absolutely.
and we're off the BSI improvement list. We still got work to do. I mean, everybody would tell you that. I mean, it's still a work in progress, but I'm very, very proud of what our great teachers, support staff, all the individuals involved, the community has supported us. And one time Jefferson County high school was one of the top high schools in the entire state of Florida.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
anywhere. I mean, the
Absolutely.
history there is just incredible. And then you look at the last 20 years when DOE took it over, and they've had a charter school in there. They lost control. The school board did. And Jefferson's been through a lot,
And we're going to talk about you coming in to take the helm of that ship. But let's rewind, and I want to get everybody making sure they can see you, they can hear you, because certainly I'm grateful that you have taken the moment to join us right here on Hallelujah 95.3, because we try to give our listeners informative information. We try to keep the news that is available. We try to make them aware of what's happening and how important it is. I want to talk a little bit about 1986. 1986, you started at Rickards, started there, teacher, moved on to athletic director. Then you got your first job as an assistant principal. Several schools you served as assistant principal. Then you became a principal at
Deer Lake.
Deer Lake.
Assistant principal at Godby, then principal at Deer Lake, where I was a blue ribbon principal, one of 14 in the nation. Very proud of that too.
So I just believe that there had to be a love for the children, a love for education, had to be a sincere love that just really created the purpose and the passion behind the work that you did.
Well, I always wanted to make a difference. I felt like in education that we get a chance to, not only change lives, but save lives. If you have an influence on kids and you can teach them that, what's important in life. And fortunately, I've had an opportunity to put together some great teams. I'm a big believer in, the success of administrator is the team he puts together.
Absolutely.
Great teachers, great support staff, and coach them up, get everybody working together, believing they can accomplish things that are important in life, and letting teachers make curriculum decisions in the classroom, not going in there telling them what to do or being overbearing. And I think that's one of the most important things in leadership. And the history I've had in Leon County is just, been incredible for me. I've been very fortunate, to have that opportunity. I also worked over in Quincy at Robert Monroe School.
Wow.
And so I've been a lot of places, and had a chance to influence a lot of kids. I've had a lot of great teachers and a lot of blessings in my life. I've been through some tough times,
Right.
as you know, we both
Absolutely.
have. But my story in Leon County, the amount of time I've spent here and the chance to influence so many young people is very, very important.
So all of that, the teacher, the athletic director, the assistant principal, all of that created or groom you or mold you in 2006 to make a decision to run for superintendent.
That's true. I'd actually looked at it before, because there were rumors that Bill Mumford was not going to run again. And I looked at it, and my mother was one of my best advisors in life. She's passed away, but I loved her dearly and still think of her every day. But I ran, and following Bill Mumford was tough, because Bill Mumford might be one of the best superintendents in the history of the state of Florida. Look at what he accomplished. I mean, he was great. So I made that decision to run, and I didn't really know much about running except what my mother taught me. And fortunately, this community elected me, for a 2-year term. Then I ran again. I served 10 years. So you had 2 4s and 1 2. And then I lost the election in 16. So I won 3 and lost 1. And, I'm just so thankful to the community. It was difficult during the last race because, we were involved in the investigation.
And I want to get to that, but I want to talk about the the times that you served from 2006 to 2013, because I'm sure there had to be some 16,
Right.
there had to be some major accomplishments that you made
Absolutely.
during that time.
Well, the first thing we did is we became one of the highest performing majority minority school districts in the state. And I'm very proud of that. If you look at that accomplishment, that we did, and we put a school turnaround office together to help those Title I schools to be successful. And we were very, very successful with that. So that's one of our major accomplishments. We improved African-American graduation rates by over 20% during that time period too, which is something that, I'm very, very, very proud of. And if you look at some of the administrators that I hired during that time that worked for me, that we brought on board, that you look at like people like Demetria Clemens today, Joe Burgess out at Childs that worked with me. Rocky was already Principal Leon, but he was working under my time during that. Donna Calloway, I brought her back at Raw, that was one of the top educational leaders in the state of Florida. So if you look at all the individuals, Dr. Marvin Henderson was my deputy superintendent. He could have been superintendent anytime he wanted to, but he chose never to run. And he was a great leader with me. And again, I think it's about the people you put together around you, building those teams and doing things and not being afraid every day. If you're not careful, you get in these jobs and you get afraid to make decisions, because you're trying to survive and you go in there saying, well, I'll do it 1 term or 2 terms, but before you know it, it goes by you. I mean, 10 years went by in a hurry. And so I'm very proud of our accomplishments. We accomplished a lot. We did a lot of good things. All the graduating classes that I had and the leaders that I put in place. And, I always remember that fondly. It's things people can't take away from you.
Right. I mean, and you said something that was so important, building the team. And a lot of times people say it so loosely, teamwork makes the dream work, but that's the reality. The right team helps propel the vision. Absolutely. So that everyone can win.
Most things in life, I feel like, go back to, no matter what you're in, whether you're a business person or a radio show, whatever you're doing, a minister, it's still, about the team you put together. And then taking that team and how you give them the ability to help you make decisions and not to have them afraid to tell you things you might not want to hear, and that's what real leadership's about. You need people around you that will challenge you every day and make you a better leader. And if you don't have that, then you become kind of stale in what you're doing because you need that challenge every day. And you need to encourage them, just like with teachers, we're having a difficult time around the state hiring teachers. Well, the reason why is we need to treat them better. We need to make sure they feel valued and part of that team and part of the decision making in a school, that they can tell you what they need to do in the classroom. When they close those doors, there's nothing more important than that teacher. They're going to have a chance to change that life forever. And you and I both know that education is the key to all communities, especially rural communities.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing you said that because I've got a lot of questions that have come in. But I want to say this to you because you were elected in 2006. And you just made it clear that you did some amazing things. But I got out of prison in 2008. You were just elected 2 years after I got out. And I came to you and I said, you need me in your schools. And you said to me, Greg, you're out of federal prison, you're on probation. There is no way I'm going to be able to have you on the campus. And we talked, and I shared with you the program that we instituted inside of the prison. I showed you all the documents. I showed you the level of success. I shared with you that it had to do with theatrics, drama, and you said, give me some time. You could have found a million reasons to say no, but what you did.
Well, Greg, what you convinced me of, you were very genuine. And at the time when you come in and you look at, with young people today, if we don't graduate our kids from high school and we don't help them to be successful, we pay for those children the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
And we pay for them in a lot of different ways. And we know what happens when kids drop out of school and when people fail. And I think sometimes these are decisions I talk about in leadership. If you're not careful, you'll find a reason not to do anything in a job, just to survive. You'll find a reason to exist. And, you know, at the time we did that, you know, I look back at that, I'm not sure, you know, what, maybe I wasn't thinking clear at the time, but I did feel like that if you could make a difference with one child, what is that worth to a community? If it was your own child, what's it worth to you? You know, so I felt like that we had to try some things different. You know, we had to do things a little bit different in order to save our children and to make sure that we provided the type of education we needed to. At one time, early in my career, our graduation rates were in the 70s. So that meant, you know, out of 100 kids, 20-something kids were not making it. So we had to change that, and we raised that way up. We got in the 90s before I left. But you got to do things different. And sometimes in life, you got to take a chance and say, hey, what will this outcome be for a child? And I think getting to know you then and seeing, you know, the concern you had to help other people, you know, you were very honest about what you'd been through, what your life was like. So, and it was very positive. I mean, the stories that were written on that, and I remember Donna Calloway, she was a big part of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I met with Miss Calloway over at Ross, she was like, I don't know you, but I've asked a lot of people about you. You know, the superintendent believes in you. I believe in him. And we spent the summer at Rock with her counselor. She said it's going to take a lot of work because we've got to rearrange some things. But we spent a whole summer identifying the kids. All kids are at risk, but identifying those most at-risk kids. And it was only supposed to be a 4-week program that turned into 22 weeks, 30 young men. Many of them were missing school. Many of them were fighting constantly, getting expelled. But 15 of those young men became A/B honor roll students, and the rest of them improved in grades, and the rest of them improved in aptitude. I brought this because I wanted to show you this, because this is the story they did.
Wow, look at this.
This is the story they did. And I keep this on my wall because it reminds me that you gave me a chance to do what I sat on a bunk for almost 13 years saying, God, when I get out, I want to make a difference in some kids' life. I don't want them to end up where I am. You gave me that chance.
Well, I appreciate that. But I remember also the parents,
what
they said, you know, so, I mean, that's what made it easy, because the parents came in and said, hey, we need some help with this. We need some help to turn our child around. And their story was so positive about you. And that made it much easier for me as a leader. The parents want you to do something, provide extra services for their children to help them to turn around. So it is a great story. And I'm proud that we're both part of it.
Yeah. And you know, and we're going to move on. But what kind of like was so heartbreaking to me is that after we had success and after you recommended that, hey, let's make him a part of our school, you had a big fight because people was like, he got a record, but you were still saying, look at the success. Right. And so the question really became in my mind, are we really concerned about these kids as the leader is?
Right.
Are those surrounding and serving on boards? And it was real distasteful when you encouraged me, hey, just keep on going, make a difference where you can. But that was a moment, and I'm grateful to be able to sit in front of you and tell you I appreciate you for opening that door. And believe me, I've had several opportunities to be in schools. I've had some schools that I was in where doing a great job, and all of a sudden I was told to get off the campus because of my background. But anyway, it didn't stop me from continuing to do the work. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
That was just 2 years after you had been elected. Let's talk about 2018. I mean, I know that was a very difficult year for you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, during the campaign, I did go through a 5-year FBI investigation. I don't talk about it very much, but it it was a very difficult time in my life, to go through that and those type of experiences, and to, it just lasted so long. You just sit there and you wait and wait and you wonder what you're going to do next with your life. And I'll never forget toward the end of that, I went into the U.S. Attorney's office on my own.
You know what? Before you get there, I want to say good afternoon to former Superintendent Reginald James.
Oh,
He
that's
said
my
he
friend.
definitely has a track record of success.
He's my friend.
Wow.
He really is.
Yeah. So before we get there now this catch you off guard. I mean, the investigation, it shows up, an anonymous notebook appears, and I mean, wow.
Well, you look back on it now, and I think it's pretty clear. Everybody's tried to do a good job of explaining. And once you get clear to that, even though they didn't find any wrongdoing, you still have to deal with it. People bring it up, or they'll pull an expert out of it. It's like a little statement that makes you look bad. But during that, it was delivered to like 36 entities, I think, if I remember, and 35 of them put it in the trash can. Only one entity took it and ran with it for 5 years. And, you go through that, but, my faith has taught me, Greg, that there's reasons for everything in life.
Absolutely.
You go through that, and, you can be bitter, you can be angry, you are hurt. I mean, it's hurtful, but, finally, I just felt like you got to pick yourself up. You got to go on with life. You got to do what you think is right. And again, you got to take chance. I took a big chance when I went in to see Mr. Canova. Chris Canova was a U.S. attorney.
Federal U.S. attorney.
Yeah,
You went in to see him.
I went in to see him without an attorney.
Wait, I got to stop.
Yeah.
And the reason I got to stop is because I had a federal case, federal trial, federal sentence, federal prison. You went in to talk to the head U.S. attorney without an attorney.
That's true. And my attorney advised me not to do
That,
that.
you don't do that.
I just went.
I mean, to go talk to the state attorney is one thing, but to talk to a federal attorney, what was the leading factor for that?
Well, it'd been 5 years, and I'd sat back and I felt like all along that, this would run a year or maybe a year and a half, and it got to the point at the end, I just decided, you know what? I want to go see the guy. I want to go in there and look him in the eye. And if he's got any questions to ask me, ask me. I want to do it. And everybody said, you can't do that. And in fact, when I did, he even, if I remember right, he told me to leave. He told me I shouldn't be there. I mean, he was a very honorable man. He said, really, Jackie, you don't need to be doing this. And if you do, anything you say can
be used against you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so I did that. And we had a long talk, and, we contacted my attorney. My attorney said, hey, he's made up his mind, so go ahead. So we sat in there, answered every question they had, and left. And I didn't think anything would happen. And then I was sitting at home one afternoon on my back porch, and he called me. And I mean,
wow, what did that phone call feel like?
Well, I don't, it's just hard to even talk about it. I got very emotional and cried, because of, you go back through everything, you've been through.
Right.
Think about it. The fact that he called me and did that, I'll remember that the rest of my life, because usually they won't do that. My attorney I had at the time said that doesn't happen, so the fact that he did that, I found it very honorable,
to say, hey, this case is over.
We're done. And then immediately my phone starts ringing. I got people calling me not long after that, and, to tell the story. But, it changed me forever, because I think it's made me more of a caring person, more empathy. To somebody comes and tells me something, I don't necessarily believe it's true until, we have a saying, we got to see the pig out of the bag,
Absolutely.
We got to see what's in there. Don't tell me something's in there. But so I'll remember that the rest of my life. And, at the time when I did it, it was very emotional for me, but, I had to go on with my life. And sometimes you just have to do things. So I did that. And then I went out in the private sector, and then the Jefferson job opened up, and I applied. Not many people wanted the job. It wasn't highly sought after. And I got the opportunity, we've turned that around.
So you started as a transitional
Principal with Somerset.
Talk about what that looks like.
Well, as a transitional principal, I went in with Somerset, and you got a chance to kind of watch what was going on at the school. And they were leaving. The charter was going to leave, and they were going to go, somewhere else, because they had schools all over the state. So I got to watch everything for a year, and I saw the weaknesses, the strengths, what we needed to build on. And Jefferson has got 20 years of history, like we mentioned before.
Right.
They've been taken over by the state charter. That was in there for 5 years. They've had a lot of issues related to academic performance. So we went in, and I started just building a team, right away. Me,
Go back to the team.
Go back to the team. We started interviewing. I interviewed over 100 people, trying to convince them to come to Jefferson with me. I used to tell them in an interview, I said, you want to climb this mountain together? We can do this. Let's do it. And I had teachers from Madison, from everywhere, Tallahassee, coming in. And we had a core group at Jefferson that were really good. So we got that team together, and we started working, right away. And last year's data came in. We had the Bureau of School Improvement in Jefferson with us. And if we didn't turn the school around, they would have had to go back to an external operator, which can cost the district as much as $500,000 a year. And because of our accomplishments, we were able to get off the BSI list, which means we don't have to get an external operator. We don't have to go back to charter. And we got the grade of a C, and they gave me an award for being a transformational principal for the leadership that we provided. Now, that doesn't mean that we're where we need to be. We still got work to do, but that was quite an honor for them to give me that. And we get another grade at the end of this year. And again, schools are not about grades. You and I both know that.
Right.
It's important to get off that list so you don't have all these findings you have to deal with. So we'll get another grade in the end of June. And we're trending toward a C, at least a C again. So we could be back-to-back Cs, which has never been done, I don't think that I know of. And it just shows I tell people the award I got for transformational leadership wasn't about me. It was about the team that we put together, the great teachers, support staff, the bus drivers that drive the buses every day. It's about the whole team. And that's what you have to do in leadership, is build that team. So, I'm totally committed to Jefferson, spending the last 3 years there, watching the community. I've learned a lot too. We have the community school program now in there with that. We've gotten a lot of support from Corey Simon and Allison Kant helping us with that. The community school provides resources for the community related to, a food bank at school, clothing closet. We're trying to deal with some of the needs that the community has, with that. And I feel like we've accomplished a lot, and we're on the right track, and we're moving forward.
Well, let me ask you this, because I know you say you went into the private sector, and I saw where at one point you was at FAMU.
Yeah, FAMU spent a year there, almost a year, half a year on.
Okay. But coming to Jefferson, realizing the challenge that you were up against, coming out of what you had been through, what was it like? What was the feeling? Did you feel that, man, I can do this?
When I first went there, I felt like, I've always believed, and we say this in education, that all children can learn. You hear everybody saying that. And I've said it many times, when there's a big difference between good politics and good leadership. Well, saying that's good politics, all children can learn. But to me, this was a chance to prove it. That a school that had been going through a lot of academic difficulties, a community that has a lot of needs. There's a lot of needs in Jefferson County. It's a chance let's prove that all children can learn. Let's get in there and show what we can do as a team. So to me, it was the greatest challenge of my life, to go in there and to make an attempt at this. And fortunately, DOE has like 12 requirements for school grading now, which include graduation rates, acceleration points, biology, civics, U.S. history, and proficiency levels for reading, math, and science. So we had 12 different areas we had to concentrate on and build a team that can do that. And we got great leadership from Department of Education with the Bureau of School Improvement. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, DOE, they shouldn't be in there, but I found them to be very helpful. The commissioner himself, Manny Diaz, visited our campus. You know, he told me right away he had been there before, you know, and even then when he was there with me, he said, you've changed the culture of this school right away. And so we had him in there. Bill Mumford was extremely supportive of what we're trying to do and helpful.
So much was on the line.
So much was on the line. And if we didn't do it, then they would have to go back to an external operator, which would cost a school district that doesn't have a ton of resources,
Right.
$500,000 maybe or more.
Probably.
Then if they don't do that, then your next step is then you have to go back to charter. And if you're watching now, schools that are F and D consistently, they're closing those schools down now. So for this community, this was very important. You know, you don't want to.
This was the heartbeat of the community.
And if you think about Jefferson, Greg, at one time, this school district, you know, the was one of the best in the state of Florida. If you look at history of music, athletics, academics,
yes,
all of it. And you look at what had changed over the past 15 to 20 years, I found it as the biggest challenge that I'd faced. Now, my first day there on the charter, I did call my wife, I remember. I told her, I said, I don't know. I don't know. This is going to be, it was going to be tough. You know, it was a tough thing. And the charter didn't have the same rules. So, you know, we had some great charters here in Leon County, arts and science. They did unbelievable. So some charters are really good, but
this one was
this one was kind of, I think they were leaving. So 60% of the teachers weren't certified. So I knew we had to get certified teachers in there, and we were able to accomplish that and turn it around. And I'm extremely proud. And the way the community has supported us, Greg, you know, they've been in there with us. You know, some of these decisions aren't easy when you're working with children and you're trying to raise the academics and you're doing what needs to be done. And so the community's been 100% supportive.
Wow.
We've still got work to do, but I think we've got it on the right track.
Listen, for those of you who are tuned into the broadcast, we're here at Hallelujah 95.3. And I'm not playing any commercials. I'm not taking any breaks. I've got to make every moment with this amazing leader, transformative leader, friend count. I'm talking to former Leon County School Superintendent, presently a candidate for the Jefferson County School Superintendent. Turnaround, transformative leader. Let me ask you something. Being in Jefferson County versus Leon County, what's the difference in the educational progress in the rural county versus the urban community?
I think that's a great question, because I think when you look at the rural communities, there are different issues that they have to deal with. One is the sparsity, how far they're spread out.
Mm-hmm.
You think about Jefferson, we could have kids coming to us from one end of the community to the other, and there's a lot of distance in that with your transportation. Also, the needs you have of the rural communities. If you watched what's happened over the years, we've got almost, I think, 300 plus students that live in Jefferson that actually go to school here in Leon. So what I'm trying to do is, one of the reasons I'm on this show today is try to recruit parents to bring them back home. We want them to come back home, and I'm here for you. We want to give us another chance on this. So that's a challenge, because now they can leave and go to other counties for that. So you've got that. And you've also got, in rural communities across this state, the poverty issue. It's a huge issue, you know, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. You know, they really don't want to talk about poverty. Well, poverty is for real. And that's why the community school that Representative Tant and Representative Simon and all the ones that have helped, Bill Mumford, you know, that helped with that, Senator Broxton, there's so many people, Manny Diaz, all of them helped get us that. And we actually moved up the list to get that. Well, the community school provides funding for like 25 years. So the whole idea is to change the community with infusion of resources, so we can deal with poverty, we can deal with food banks, we can deal with kids that don't have the coats they need to have that. Mental health is a huge issue in rural communities, because they don't have the access sometimes that they need. And so all those issues in the rural community are different. And I think it's very important that if you're going to change a community, how important is it to have a great school there in the community like they once had? And I think from even the standpoint of economic development, public-private partnerships with
Mhm.
education. All that is important for the success of Jefferson County and all rural communities throughout the state.
So wow. So you see the difference, but I think one of the things that you're so grateful for is how the community has embraced the leadership in the school system under your direction.
Well, they've been very supportive. And even when, you disagree with individuals, I think you have to value what they're telling you, their opinion, so you can listen to them and to make sure that they know you care. Because I think it all starts with how we feel about each other and how much we care about each other. And for them to know that you want to do everything you can to help their child to be successful. And that's the role we play in education. And if we're not successful educating our children, if we don't get them to graduate, earn a living in their community where they don't have to move away, or get them prepared for the workforce, we know what happens. I mean, history shows us what's going to happen with these kids.
And we see it. I mean, one of the things, hey, Pastor Walker, listen, you must be heard of.
Now you told me to stop back.
Hey, that's my man right there. Boy, every election he was with me. That is my man.
So listen, so we definitely know what happens when our kids are not engaged in school. We know where they're going.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've seen the gap here in our county. It's even in Gadsden as well, that there is an increase in the institutions, and our children are dropping out. And one of the things that I say, and I say this without any fear or any hesitation, that if they are put out of school and if there is nowhere for them to go, then the guys in the community are going to embrace them. Crime is going to become the educational tool that they're going to learn about. Incarceration into the detention center is the first stop. Then they're going to graduate to the jails, and then they're going to the prisons. So when you look at that, there are gaps. There are gaps that need to be filled in the educational systems. So how do you fill those gaps?
Well, I think everything you said is proven with data.
Data shows.
It's not your opinion. It's data shows that if we don't get our students into school, get them motivated and graduate them and get them ready and not necessarily going on to college. College is great, but at the same time, making sure that they're able to earn a living. One of the things we did at Jefferson is we put in career technical courses that you can get acceleration points for your school grading. I have one that got over 100 CT acceleration points in 1 year because of getting somebody in there that can do that. Because we have to motivate our children too. You got to give them a reason to get up every day and want to come to school. And it starts with knowing the individual there, number one, cares about them and wants them to be successful, and also is going to do everything they can to be successful. So I feel like that one of the most important things we can do for our kids at risk is to make sure there's a positive environment at that school where they know they're cared for, and that we're going to do everything we can to make them successful, because we know as a society that if kids do not make it through school or not provided some type of career educational program, that these are the children that we pay for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
And it's proven throughout. So, and I tell people that, there's stories. Now, do we hit a home run every time? No. We make mistakes and we have kids but we've got to do everything we can to motivate our children to be successful and to take responsibility for their life and for their actions, and that what's out there for them, for their career. And what I found out, I've dealt with a lot of grandparents, a lot of parents. Mm-hmm. We have a single mom. There's not anybody out there that doesn't care about their children. Absolutely. They want them to be successful. Absolutely. Even when some of the children you dealt with, when they're struggling, they want help. So we've got to be there for them to provide the type of help that they need in order to help our children to be successful. And I think it's that way in life. And if you think about it, in your life, I don't care who you are, Greg James, Jackie Pons, Reverend Walker, any of us, Mr. Hard Time's going to come knocking at your door sooner or later. And sometimes with young kids, it happens much too soon, much too soon. They get involved with things they shouldn't be involved in. They get influences on their lives they shouldn't have. And I think we've got to do everything we can to pull those children back in with different type of programs, different type of career education programs, helping them to graduate and not to give up on them. That's it. We give up, you give up on somebody and they're gone and they don't come back and then they end up in a situation that we're having to deal with, and we know what it cost our community in that, so we work every day, everybody says how many children are out there that are in trouble or whatever. Well, it really doesn't matter how many, it's that we've got to try to help them to turn them around and almost one story at a time, make sure we can do to help with that and try to help. And sometimes it doesn't work, and we have to acknowledge that. And we got to go back and relook at how we're doing things and try again.
But you got to keep doing it. Let me ask you this question, because this is a question that has been sent to me. There's a shortage of teachers nationwide. To fulfill that shortage, individuals are being hired without the necessary educational support. What kind of support would you offer a first-year teacher to reduce burnout, feeling overwhelmed, and enhance proper decisions while ensuring student success?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do is for first-year teachers is the environment you create within that school. They've got to feel like that they have a mentor teacher that's been there a while that can work with them individually. But they also have to feel like that they're part of the team and that they're cared for, they're loved, they're part of that team that we're going to motivate every day. And again, we're back to team building, how you treat people. Beginning teachers are going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes in life. And what you got to do is help them through those mistakes where they feel like you care about them. There's so much accountability on test scores and what you do. And even when I talk about improving our grade to a C, what a significant accomplishment that is. And I say we still got work to do, but you get so focused on the accountability that I think sometimes teachers are overwhelmed and they feel like everybody's in there and nobody's supporting me. And how they feel is very important for their success, because what we've learned in research, the students are going to be much more successful if they feel like that teacher loves and cares about them. Teachers are the same way. I've got a thing. I love to catch teachers doing something right and compliment them on it. And that's not phony. It's real. Like, hey, you did this. I got a phone call today from this parent that said you made a positive phone call about how this student had improved their grades. Teachers love that type of positive reinforcement, and they need that. And I think if we do more of that, we'll keep more teachers involved. Recently there's been a lot of money put in on the front end of teacher salaries in education.
And it's amazing you said that, because I was going to ask you really to just get an understanding of teacher salary. What role does the school play? What role does the superintendent play? What role does the staff, the leadership play when it comes to the allocation of being able to increase teacher salary? Because I know that the FEFP program, which the legislature put in place, has a major impact on the decision making. But what role does the leadership play from superintendent on down to being able to say that there should be an increase in the salaries?
Well, I think the most important thing the superintendent can do is make sure that the resources are focused at the school level. And I tried to do that when I was superintendent 10 years as much as possible. Make sure they've got the resources there where they need them. Recently we get in trouble sometimes because, and I've heard you do this too, we call it like it is.
Absolutely.
I've been a Democrat, my whole life. I had a lot of Republican support when I was here in Independence. I feel like if you're going to be a superintendent, you got to be superintendent for everybody. Even the ones that don't like you or what, but you're still their superintendent. And there's been a lot of criticism toward the governor about some education things. But if we're going to do that, that's fine. But we do have to recognize the fact he's put tons of money into teacher salary lately. And this is a Democrat saying that. I mean, and he has.
Absolutely.
And he's done that. So if we're going to criticize him for something else, but don't criticize him for that. And I think it's important. And Bill Mumford's led the way on that. Representative Tant, Corey Simon, they've all been involved in that. There's a lot of money coming in at the beginning steps for teachers. So that's a good thing. But with that, it's not just about money for teachers. It's about how they're treated and how they're respected and if they feel part of a team. So we got to put all that, infuse all that in together. We need to increase the salaries. We need to make sure we continue to do that. We got to keep the governor and the legislature still putting money in like they're doing now. Keep that going. But at the same time, they've got to feel valued and they got to feel like they get to make curriculum decisions in the classroom. And we need to cut all the red tape where they can help these students individually to be successful.
I mean, and I mean, what good is being able to have a $90,000 salary, but I'm not cared about. The money just does not.
Well, everybody thought the money would do it. If you just put money in there, it'll do it. But what we found out, there's more to it.
There's more to it.
The money's important. Don't get me wrong. We want to pay our teachers as much as we can.
Yeah,
We need to do that. But again, they still have to feel valued, and they got to be in the decision-making process. I think a lot of times administratively, I used to tell our principals, to be a great leader, you got to get people to follow you. It's not about me telling you what to do and you need to do this or this is going to happen. That leadership went out a long time ago. We got to motivate individuals and feel like that they can come in the office and disagree with you, even with parents,
and not be
punished.
Punishment,
right? And not be in a situation where they feel afraid to speak up. And even with parents, I think it's that true. It's okay for them to disagree with you, listen to them, but make sure they feel valued and respected in what they're doing every day.
Wow. So let me ask you this, man, I tell you, so many people are chiming in and we've got questions coming in. When you look at where we are now in the educational climate, and you already was in a situation where, hey, everything is on the line and I've got to make it happen. I've got to do what is necessary. I got to motivate teachers. I've got to create a team. I've got to get the kids excited about the fact that we're here for them. How much involvement do you look for your teachers, your administrative team to bring to the table?
Well, I think they have to be involved, in all that. And I think if you don't make sure they're involved and take ownership in all that, you're not going to be successful. They've got to feel part of the process and there to do it and to make sure that they feel valued in everything they do. And it comes down to how you treat each other. And that's why it's so important.
Wow. I mean, we got about 9 minutes left. I'm going to take the next 9 minutes and I'm going to ask all the questions that I thought I should ask in these 9 minutes. So you could give me short answers and then they won't have to be long. Why Jefferson as opposed to Leon for superintendent?
Well, what happened to me in Jefferson is, the job came at a very important time in my life when I was starting back over in education. And as I went through it, I just fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the community, what we're trying to accomplish, and putting that team together. We put together over there, some of the best teachers in the entire state of Florida, the best support staff. I just felt like that this is where I needed to be. I mean, I had people coming to me and, people calling me about Leon County, but I'm kind of at a different point in my life. I want to make a difference over there and I want to be committed to Jefferson, and I love being the principal there. I love turning this around. And I started feeling like that if I left, that the team would fall apart. And I'm all about team. It's the team. It's not me. And I wanted to keep that together. And there's a lot of needs in our community over there. There's a lot of needs in Monticello that we need. We have a lot of poverty, a lot of issues we're having to deal with. And I just felt like that's where I was. And they wanted me back when I had a chance. And I still feel like I got something to give to them. Wow. And that's why I did it and made that decision. And I think one of the older we get in life, we realize that we're not going to live forever. We're not going to be here forever. And, you know, you might be able to earn money and buy a lot of things, but you can't buy time. So the time you have at the end of your life or the end of your career, it's almost like a call to service for me. And I felt that way. And, you know, I told you, I prayed about it when I, you know, made my decision to go over there and did it. And I felt like that's where I was being guided to go. And so now we've had a lot of success. And I was sitting in a meeting and I had somebody at the table tell me, so you're going to leave now after you've done this. And I didn't say anything, but I thought about it. And I said, you know, and I went home that night, and you know, so I felt like, you know, I need to stay where I am and finish the job, finish the course. It's just not about using a successful time in your life to go try to be successful somewhere else.
Wow.
Now, I had consultants telling me that it was much easier to do in Leon than what I'm trying to do in Jefferson, because it's only been done once, I think, in the history of the state that somebody's won an election in 2 different counties. So, you know, I realized that, you know, it wasn't even about that, about going someplace to try to win a race or whatever. It's about continuing the service in Jefferson. And you know, once you've lost a race, I won 3, lost 1. I mean, worst thing can happen is you lose another one. You go into it to win, but you know, whatever happens in your life. But to me, it's been a call to service, and that's where I'm going to go. And you know, if it ends up not being the right thing, I feel like what's happened to me in my life was for a purpose.
And you know, I want to go to that because I want to ask that the 5 years, what did that do for your faith? The 5 years that you had to deal with this investigation. What did it just do for your faith? And
Well,
because I know being 10 years as superintendent, I mean, could nobody tell you nothing.
I was
mean,
pretty confident.
absolutely.
I tried to be, you know, I had a lot of confidence during those 10 years. I mean, at one time, I think I got 120,000 votes in an election. You know, then in the last year, I got like half that many, you know, so, but I think your faith, it tries your faith when you go through tough times. But I do think there's a reason for it in life. You know, you know, I'm not saying it was a good thing to happen, but there's a purpose for it. And my purpose, I ended up over in Jefferson. I got a chance to be at a school that had 15, 20 years of failure, to turn it around, be part of that. And, you know, so during that time, you know, that came up and I felt like that's where I needed to be. And so, and then when it really came down to being successful over there, then saying, now I'm going to turn around and go back over here, it didn't seem right to me.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Appreciate you asking of me to come by and Jack and I go over back and listening to you. I know some of the things that and listening to you in terms of man, and then Pastor James talked about this in terms of people in positions and leadership positions or whatever. And I'm hearing you say one of the things that your experience taught you, and I can feel the spirit, and that is compassion for people. And I think that needs to be one of the moral value of being a leader and having compassion for people. And then you can't develop that, like you said, overnight. And Greg asked the question in terms of how they did it, what they did to your team. And I can see the compassion that you're saying, I don't need to be over here. I need to be right here. Because
Right.
That's what I see in Jefferson County. I see that the compassion that the people have, and most people now in political position or in leadership position, they have lost the compassion for people. It's to scratch your back, I scratch your back. And I think Greg always emphasized, we always emphasize in our circle, that what is it that we can do as a community to let people see that we need foot soldiers. Not people just sit around the table. You say that's the teamwork right there. Let me bring people in, talk to my teacher. Let me find out going. I don't have to send A and B to see about my teacher. being the principal, or being in a leadership
The
position.
ego.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the front line, and I'm seeing that is what's happening. That's what is needed, because when you talk about being a disciple of Christ, and by being a Christian or being a person, it's not what you do, it's more than who you are. It's your character. Your character produce what you do. And I really appreciate that. And just to say, in terms of the compassion that I can see it display now.
Well, I appreciate that, because it does make you a different person, and it really makes you realize what's important in your life. And I just want to thank you and Greg, especially you, Pastor Ball. You were every race I was ever in, even when times were tough, you were there with me. And you know that we both cared about kids, and you always were a spiritual leader for me, just watching what you had done in this community and what you've given back to the community. It's very powerful, and I appreciate your friendship.
I appreciate that.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, it's been an amazing moment here. And one of the things that I want to say as we trying to make sure we can get settled back in here. One of the things I want to say, Jackie, if you can just come on up, I want to bring you right back in. There you go. One of the things I want to say, because there's so many people that are chiming in. Thank you so much, Pastor Walker, for stopping in, because you wanted to share some things that were important. One of the things that I want to say is that, you know, in spite of all that has gone through, I say this all the time, our trials and our tests are only a testament of what God does with our lives. He placed you in Jefferson. He placed you in a place where they were on the verge of losing all hope when it came to the educational system being placed back into the hands of the state. But God sent you, and at that moment, you created the vision for people to see that we can make it out of this. I made it out of what I went through.
Sure.
The road wasn't easy, but I made it out of what I went through with just a handful of people, because there were so many who walked away. But we're going to make it out of this as one. So I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for the important role that you played in my life. And I'll never forget that. I share it all the time. I share it everywhere I go when it comes to being able to go into a school. And I've been doing this now. I've been out of prison for 15 years, and I still have trouble getting in school.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me. I got to run to a foundation event at our school, but
Absolutely.
thank you for having me, and I appreciate y'all's friendship.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Good to see you.
Hey, keep it right here. Lock it in. Hey, listen, family, it's been it's been an amazing time right here on the Great James Show. I want to wrap it up. Pastor Walker, sitting here, man, listening to superintendent. Well, I guess I'm not going to call it into existence. Superintendent of Jefferson County, Principal Jackie Ponce. Man, what were your thoughts on that? I mean,
I was listening on my way over, and we had discussed several different things about the community and the upcoming things that are happening in our community, and especially the things that you are doing now, the breakfast, in terms of honoring people in our community that have been in public service for a length of time. And I think that's something that needs to be, I'm not saying needed, but it's something that will help the community to understand of the service that people always put in. And many times you put in, but there's nobody else putting back in to do it. And it kind of spiritually and physically, psychologically drains and it take time to just say with the fellowship, this is what we're trying to do. And then knowing Jack as long as I've known him and the things that I've seen him go through, like you're talking about the test of faith, is that you have a testimony. And that's what we need in this day and time, is to take what we've been through and to be able to share with our kids and let them know, no, you don't have to give up. You come from a single home. You come from a setting that it may not be as productive as others, but you can make it in life, you know, and that kind of atmosphere, testimony give children a little hope to say, I can do it because I've seen these people do it. You know, I think that's the, and then the compassion and wanting to do it, you know. I don't want to take, you know, I think someone said that the richest place in the world is the graveyard. That is because all of the vision, the dreams that you never ever shared or ever came to full play, now they buried. I heard Jackie say, you know, this is where I think I need to be.
Wow. And that was big.
Yeah.
When you recognize that I'm in the place that God has ordained, then I'm going to stay there and do what God has called me to do. Hey, listen, man, it's been an amazing show. Thank you so much. That was, we just finished talking with the principal of the Jefferson School. That was Principal Jackie Pons, who's now a candidate for superintendent of the Jefferson County. So certainly it's been an amazing time. Thank Pastor Walker for stopping in on this as well. And I want to say to all of you, let's get ready for June 1st. It's our 8th annual Tallahassee Leadership Prayer Breakfast. It's happening in the month of June. We're going to be celebrating leaders who have been serving in our community, leaders who have been trailblazing, leaders whose voice has been speaking on the behalf of others for over 30 years. Pastor Stanley Walker of the Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Joseph Wright of the Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church, Dr. R.B. Holmes of the Bethel Baptist Church, Judy and Gerald Mandrell, Life Changers, Reverend Ernest Farrell of the St. Mary Primitive Baptist Church. We are celebrating leaders that have been serving our community for the last 30 years. It's going to be happening June the 1st at the Tallahassee, Leon County, Donna L. Tucker Civic Center. You want to make plans to join us. It's the Tallahassee Leadership Prayer Breakfast. And certainly, if you have not considered purchasing a table, you need to do so, because guess what? They're going fast, and we're excited about some of the young men that we're going to be celebrating as well that's been making an impact in our community, such men like Zachary Richardson, Corey Fuller, Arik Austin, Tyrone McGriff, Sam Carter. Listen, you want to make plans to join us June the 1st. It's June, it's Father's Day. It's the gathering of watchmen. I'm looking for business owners. I'm looking for nonprofits, churches, community, individuals. Get your ticket, meet us. In the meantime, have an amazing day. And remember, your life matters. So make a difference with the time that you have. Tune in. Don't go nowhere. It's Doc D coming to provide you with the very best in gospel music. Hey, family, I pray that you've enjoyed the show. I pray that you stay tuned, because it's right here that we're going to be talking to candidates. We're going to be informing you. We're going to keep you posted on how important it is to get out to vote. And not only get out to vote, but how important it is to be engaged in the process. Be blessed. And don't forget now, your life matters. TC said need 2 hours for this show. Man, thank you so much. Somebody said, preach, Reverend Walker, compassion for leaders. Michael Court, thank you, man. Hey, listen, y'all have an amazing day. Appreciate all of y'all for joining in. Stay tuned. Hey, listen, the shows for the next 4 or 5 months are going to be amazing because we're going to talk to all the candidates. We're going to give them a grade. We're going to tell them what they liking. And guess what? We're going to ask and demand that when it comes to leadership, let's make the main thing the main thing. All right. Be blessed.